All right, we'll go ahead and call the October 17th, 2024 Revenue Estimating Conference to order. The first order of business is to approve the agenda. So unless there's an objection, I will declare that approved.
Objection.
Next thing is to approve the minutes from the March 2024 meeting. And again, unless there's objection, I'll mark those as approved.
No objections.
Going forward, we probably will have a shorter minutes again, unless there's an objection, probably not include our remarks. Okay. And now I'll turn the floor over to Jennifer Acton, the Director of Fiscal Services Division.
Thank you. A little over 2 weeks ago, the books closed for FY 2024. Net general fund revenue, including transfers for the year, decreased $89.5 million, or a minus 0.9% compared to FY 2023. Individual income tax and corporate income tax receipts saw reductions of 10.8% and 9.5% respectively, while sales and use tax and miscellaneous tax receipts saw increases. The decreases reflect additional tax rate reductions that began January 1, 2024, including an income tax rate reduction moving the top rate from 6% to 5.7%, and a reduction to the top corporate income tax rate from 8.4% to 7.1%. Throughout this past year, the U.S. economy has continued to experience strong performance, but appears to be reaching a transition period of relatively slower growth. Moody's estimates overall 2024 U.S. GDP growth to be 2.6%, before easing to a still solid 2.1% in 2025. Iowa GDP increased from 1.7% in the first quarter of 2024 to 2.4% in the second quarter of 2024, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Inflation has begun to retreat closer to historic levels, with housing being the primary lag. Gas prices have dropped over the summer, and as of October 7th, we're averaging $3.17 per gallon nationally, down from $3.81 per gallon a year ago. Due to a slower labor market and lower inflation, the Federal Reserve has started to decrease interest rates. Although consumer confidence and demand for goods and services remain strong, consumer spending appears more restrained from the post-pandemic high. The Consumer Confidence Index, or CCI, was 98.7, down from 105.6 in August, which was the largest decline since August 2021. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported consumer price gains at 2.4% annually as of September 2024, which is down from 2.5% compared to the prior month and down from 3.7% 1 year ago. Core CPI, which is inflation minus food and energy costs, was measured at 3.3%, which is up from 3.2% compared to the prior month and down from 4.1% a year ago. The U.S. labor market is starting to show signs of slowing, although it continues to see monthly increases. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. economy added 254,000 jobs in September 2024, which exceeded expectations by over 100,000 jobs. Also, the national unemployment rate fell to 4.1% in September from 4.2% in August, and wage growth rose by 0.4% month over month and 4% year over year. Iowa has begun to see some weakening in the agricultural and manufacturing sectors, resulting in reduced jobs due to lower crop and commodity prices. However, the USDA recently reported farm income is not anticipated to decline as much as expected earlier in the year. Iowa's unemployment rate in September 2024 was 3%, up from 2.9% in August, but down from 3.1% in September 2023. The Iowa labor force participation rate as of August 2024 was 66.3%, down from 67.7% in August 2023. Shifting the focus from the economy to the general fund revenue estimate, major tax reductions began in January 2023 and continue to slow the accumulation of general fund revenue as expected. Earlier this year, Senate File 2442, the Individual Income Tax Rate Act, was enacted after the March REC meeting. This act further reduced the top individual income tax rate from 5.7% to a flat 3.8%. This change will take effect January 1, 2025, which impacts both FY 2025 and FY 2026, and have been included in the LSA estimate. In addition, the pass-through entity tax continues to make estimating complex as it impacts the miscellaneous tax line, as well as the refund and personal income tax lines on the REC sheet. The LSA estimate includes these changes and others. The result is an LSA estimate that is a net revenue decrease for both FY 2025 and FY 2026, despite solid economic conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pleggy.
Thank you. Zay, let me just say, as the public member of this board, thanks again to all the IDR staff, the DOM staff, and LSA staff for all the work that goes into this. You can only appreciate the number of spreadsheets until you start getting them all. So just a few comments. One is, I think kind of to Jennifer's point, most people continue to be pleasantly surprised at the resiliency of the national economy. It continues to move forward. There's lots of comments about why that is and why it isn't, but it is continuing down that path. As the PTAT adjustments have been interesting to adjust, but at some point here, we're going to find a good flat line and a good baseline for that as well. I think the Board of Governors surprised a lot of people with the 50 basis point reduction. I wasn't surprised by that, but I do think because of that further reductions may be a little slower than some people anticipate, but time will tell on that, and that's just speculation on my part. I appreciated Jennifer's comments about inflation. Obviously, it's coming down from its high, but when you look at the inflation numbers compared to pre-COVID numbers, they're still pretty sticky in a lot of areas, especially housing, and that is obviously a concern for a lot of consumers on just the cost of goods in general. Credit demand, speaking on the banking side of the equation, credit demand is still out there. It's slowing. It's a little bit more subdued pace than it has been in the past. Interest rates currently at where they're at still are causing some projects to get delayed, some cases canceled. But as interest rates come down, some of those may resurface again as well. But again, overall, still impactful. Ag, obviously, as was stated, earnings projections are down, not as much as they originally were slated for. Right now, the commodity prices are the main driver. As I saw a comment this morning, farmers may bushel their way through it because yields are stronger than they thought they were going to be. And apparently genetics don't need rain anymore because they just continue to get bigger yields. But it will have impacts, and it's having impacts on the farm, and it's having impacts on ag business, as was stated earlier. So, but it's quickly happening, quickly. Harvest is completing pretty quickly. And with that, I'll end my comments.
Thank you. I have a few brief comments myself. First of all, thank you to the Governor for the opportunity to represent the executive branch on this conference. As always, I extend a thank you to the committee members for their full participation and all the people who help the members prepare, including the Legislative Services Agency, the Department of Management, and the Department of Revenue. Today's work essentially does two things. One, it narrows in on the spending thresholds for fiscal year 26, which has some very unique challenges. And probably more importantly, it affirms that the state can afford the fiscal year 25 appropriations authorized last year by the General Assembly and the Governor. Today's recommendations from both the executive branch and the legislative branch lower the estimates for the current fiscal year as well as fiscal year 26, but this was expected with the enactment of the tax cuts that were passed last session. However, the available revenue to spend in this fiscal year is significantly above the dollars spent, and there is no issue with meeting the needs of Iowans in fiscal year 25. The state continues to be in a very strong financial position, in no small part because of the continued spending discipline. This spending discipline shown by the Governor and the General Assembly have served Iowans well. The reserve funds are full at $961 million. The Taxpayer Relief Fund has a balance of over $3.75 billion. And the carry forward from the previous fiscal year, that is fiscal year 24, is $1.9 billion. As to the fiscal year 25 recommendations I'm making today, while modestly lower than the Legislative Services Agency, it appears we're seeing similar things in our analysis. First, the tax cuts are having the intended effect. They're leaving more money in Iowans' pockets, and they're leaving more money in the pockets of Iowa's employers. However, the base continues to grow, and this analysis shows the state continuing to have growth at the base level. What I mean by that is the reductions we are recommending today are less than the sum of the tax rate reductions that have been adopted. Or stated another way, but for the tax cuts, there would be an increase in revenue to the state coffers. This is exciting, and it means that Iowa's underlying economy continues to show strength. Regarding fiscal year 26, this is much more challenging. Clearly, the executive branch recommendation is more conservative. This is largely driven by the uncertainty that exists at the national level, in particular, the uncertainty surrounding the national elections. I do expect that once voters have made their decisions and we know the outcome, this will change. We are all familiar with the circumstances around the election, but I did want to mention one thing in particular that will be important as we move forward, and that is the uncertainty surrounding the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, or the TCJA. Both parties appear to want to carry forward at least some parts of it. However, it is unclear what parts may be continued. As a reminder, this matters to our decisions because the state of Iowa has rolling conformity with the Internal Revenue Code. Therefore, those decisions will directly impact revenue to the state. We will be in a much better position to predict FY26 when we meet in December. Lastly, I want to say again, the state of Iowa continues to be in a very strong financial position. And with that, we'll continue on with the agenda. The first thing up is review the fiscal year 2025 general fund estimates, accruals, refunds, school infrastructure transfer, and lottery and other transfers. And Mr. Pleggy.
Yeah, so to your point, Craig, I appreciate how close these estimates are now for FY25 between the two. And as I looked at them together, it's less than 1% different. And when I look at the totals, I guess my recommendation would be that we take the LSA estimates for 25, with the only exception being to replace the, get my numbers right here, to use the DOM's estimate for corporate income tax in place of the LSAs, and otherwise leaving the rest of them the same. So instead of the 4405.7, replace that with the 4332.2, and that's just a reflection of my, toward the comments of the PTAT again, is the kind of the unsure nature of that.
So the motion is for Mr. Pleggy to use the LSA numbers that they are recommending for fiscal year 25, with the exception of corporate income tax, which will be the governor's estimate at 749.2. You guys got that? Okay.
Yes. That would leave us at 9238.9 for FY25, minus 5.3%.
Say that again.
Total net receipts plus transfers, 9238.9, minus 5.3%.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? Is there a motion, second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and that is adopted. Moving to the next agenda item, review fiscal year 2026 general fund estimates, accruals, refunds, school infrastructure transfer, and lottery and other transfers. Mr. Pleggy.
Yeah, so kind of on the opposite ledger on this one, I'm suggesting that we use the DOM forecast, the governor's forecast for this one. Again, with one replacement item, I would suggest that we move the sales and use tax number to 4.550. And that's just when I look at the trend lines of sales and use, it just feels like that fits in a little better. Otherwise, the numbers as the governor's office shows them.
So the motion is to use the governor's numbers for FY26 with the exception of the sales and use tax line. Replace that with $4.450 billion.
4.550.
Oh, sorry. 4550.
Yep.
So that would leave us at, for using the DOM estimate for FY26 at 8658.7, minus 5.8%.
All right. Any discussion?
So the problem is we're we're using two different forecasts, so the percentage, the total is correct, but the percentage is different. So we need to, let's see, adjust that. So the forecast now reads 8658.7 minus 6.3% for FY26.
Okay, I'm just gonna restate quick. That's 8,658,000,000.7 at a minus 6.3. Okay. Any discussion?
I guess I'm comfortable with that from the fact, like we talked about before, 26, at this point, this is the first time we've looked at the 26 numbers, and we're going to be meeting again in 2 months to talk about this, and we hopefully will have more information at that point in time. So for right now, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and the motion is adopted. For fiscal years 25 and 26, gambling revenues transferred to other funds and interest earned on reserve funds transferred to the Rebuild Iowa Infrastructure Fund. Mr. Pleggy.
Yes, I move as presented on both sides.
Okay, any discussion? Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and that motion is adopted. Is there any other business? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.